So, namaste, welcome. It's so good to be here again. This 2 weeks has gone really, really quickly, it seems. So, there's a couple of key things. As always, I'd like to try to bring a spotlight to something that is or was confusing for myself, which when we can talk about it and go through, it may help to simplify things. The way that awakening unfolds for us all is unique in our own karmic patterns, but the stages and the challenges that we may go through are universal in overcoming certain beliefs and thoughts. And sometimes I found it was helpful to look at those, why we go through what we do, and how to work with that process consciously. It was very important for myself to understand, to stop resisting the process and allow it to unfold in a lot smoother way. So I hope that will be helpful just to talk through. And it's very common, people will say to me that they don't feel, they know kind of intellectually that they are the one being, the self, that there is only one of us, manifesting as appearing as all of these human beings and forms. But how do we come to recognize that experientially? What is the process of that? And really, it's a twofold process. And there's a couple of things to know, to really understand deeply about the process that really may help to shortcut it for us all. And the first is that it cannot fail to happen, because you cannot fail to wake up and realize what you really are and come to live as that. It's not possible for failure in that process, although we may experience long delays when some belief is being experienced and we're not conscious of what that belief is, not able to look and dissolve that belief. We may experience a long, lengthy delay, some experience playing over and over again. I did in my own pathway. But because we know, even intellectually, that we are the self, then we can begin to challenge certain beliefs that come up along the way. We all have very similar experiences in a way. And because we are already the self, believing itself to be separate, alone, isolated, and having to somehow find its way back home to recognize what we really are and then come to live as that. There are certain experiences that are common to everyone in that awakening. Myself, I experienced several 100,000 times an experience very, very briefly of what seemed to be some purer, higher state condition that seemed to last only for a short while and then seemed to be obscured again. I had over and over again this experience of getting it and losing it and getting it and losing it. And this led to some very frantic attempts to keep it when it happened. It being this kind of opening, some expansive, undivided consciousness would break through, and at some point that would disappear. So I had this experience of getting it, losing it, trying to keep it, blaming myself for having lost it. And I'm sure many people could agree that they've had very, very similar experiences. So how do we come to live from that oneness then, as that oneness? How do we come to know with absolute certainty in our lives that in everyday, ordinary way that we are that we're not separate? And really the other key thing to understand, really, to do that for me was fundamental. The recognition that I'm not going to feel like the one. I'm not going to feel like the self until I have overcome these beliefs one by one. Each one that I turn around and therefore stop experiencing, each belief, idea that I unsubscribe my energy and conviction from, I'm going to have more peace after I've done that, more joy, more openness, more curiosity, and all those things that we're looking for. And a deeper sense of recognition that I am that which is everywhere all the time and can never be separated from anything. Because, our mind will tell us that we have to feel like the one first, feel like the self first, and then we overcome these beliefs. But in reality, most of us have got so much energy tied up in these beliefs that we can't feel undivided until we've overcome them. So little by little, belief by belief, we win back our peace that was tied up as fear or guilt or jealousy or irritation, whatever it is that we're feeling, the corresponding experience we're having in our life somewhere or in our awakening. It's fundamental to firstly recognize that you are that already, therefore your awakening cannot fail. You cannot fail to see what you are if you are already the self and you find yourself in a group such as this. Already the self that is you has become disenchanted with life as a separate being. It's already too late to not hear the truth. You've already heard it. And by repetition of hearing it and experiencing it again and again, that when we look for this separate being, we can't really find, there's a sense of a separate being, but we can't actually pin it down when we actually look for it. And that we use what we have seen, we hold it up against the next experience that is being offered to us from the egoic sense of self. Well, if I can't find a separate being, do I still have to become the self? Do I still have to keep this experience when it happens? Can I get it or lose it even? All of these experiences are coming from this idea that we are a separate being, someone or something that is trying to wake up and recognize what's true. And we can believe in them for a very, very long time. We can keep experiencing the same old expanded and then very contracted state in an oscillation that goes on, which can become very protracted and painful. So for me, it was fundamental to realize that it cannot fail, that experience of failure to wake up has been a result of my agreement. My disturbance inside was a result of my agreement with this idea that I might not make it. I might not get there. And even once I see what I am, I might not be able to live like that. So it's important to recognize that whatever we're experiencing is showing us what we're believing, and then to question that belief. Can I lose it? Can I get it? It being the self. Do I have to keep it? Is it something I need to struggle hard towards? Can I be unworthy of realizing the self, of having peace, all of that, if I am it already? Can it be withheld from me? Can I be blocked from any experience that I want to have, any recognition, any epiphany that I need? Or am I experiencing again my belief, my agreement in this idea? So if we can reorient our way of approaching the experiences that we have along the pathway, we all have very similar experiences in that we will experience at some point for a brief moment or longer, sometimes for a lot longer, what we really are, it will show itself as an experience, and then it will seem to close over, to disappear. The clouds seem to come back and cover the blue sky of awareness, so that we can experience what we need to experience in order to transcend it. As the self, we have believed in these ideas for such a long time that we have to be presented with the experience that we wish to challenge. And only when it's happening to us, only when I seem to lose my peace, will I be determined to find out finally if I can actually lose it. Only when I feel unworthy of awakening will I feel finally strong enough to challenge that. Only when we experience what needs to be examined within us are we aware that it's there even to question. So it is really very, very helpful to realize, or it was for me at least, that these experiences that we may be having, these challenges, these difficulties, are tailor-made for our awakening. Whatever we're struggling with right now in our own awakening is happening to help us overcome some idea that we're holding on to, that we can now release, that no longer serves us. Can we fail to wake up if you are that? Do you need to reach a point of readiness if you are already the self? Can you lose your peace, your seeing, if you are already the pure awareness? And of course, we all experience having some epiphany, and then seemingly it gets clouded over again to show us that this is what we're still believing that needs to be examined and then discarded. And in my own journey, my own awakening got much quicker and easier once I began to see that the very next thing in front of me was the very next thing that was ready to be transformed back into peace and joy and a deeper sense of knowing that each one of these things I overcame, it became more and more obvious that I was the one and that I'd never been separate. What started out as theoretical knowledge only became a deeper and deeper, more experiential knowing as each of these experiences was transcended. And if we can recognize that, then we can come to our challenges with a different perspective, that this is exactly what I need to experience in this moment. Although I probably won't enjoy it or want it, I can recognize that this is the next step in front of me to deepen my seeing. Because awakening isn't a happening. It's not going to happen at some point in the future. It's not an event. There's another idea that really held me back, that I'm waiting for some event to happen to my body and mind, and that until it's happened, then my awakening isn't progressing, that there must be some visible outer sign or experience, some big fanfare moment where I will be clear at least that my awakening is occurring. And for most of us, it just doesn't happen that way. We may have some aha moments, some epiphanies, some revelations. But if we're waiting for a final moment or a big event or a happening to happen, then we can miss the beautiful thing that's happening right in front of us. You know, the fact that we didn't react quite so negatively to the same person challenging us this time, or we didn't lose our peace for very long at all. And this time when this karmic pattern played, or we didn't blame ourselves this time when we lost sight of the awareness temporarily that we are. If we're missing all these little markers, all these little tiny happenings that are showing us our progression, that it's an unfolding rather than a happening, that it's constantly unfolding. If we have the eyes to see it, if we have the willingness to look. This is another thing that held me back, and hopefully it will shortcut the process for you, that we're not waiting for some happening. Very few beings that wake up experience some very big apocalyptic moment. Of course, those are the ones we all hear about. But it certainly wasn't that way for me. There were some moments where it was obvious, some big epiphany, but that was really after I'd accepted that those weren't really signs of success. They're nice experiences, they're great, and it feels good to have a breakthrough. But are we noticing the little things that are happening? That maybe we didn't resist our mind so much when it was talking at 4 a.m. than we did last time. Maybe we're just able to let it do its thing today rather than yesterday when we pushing against. So we can't fail. You can't fail to see your reflection if you look in the mirror. And the infinite self that we are can't fail to recognize itself once it decides it wants to. There's nothing at all that can stop it. And working with the process is going to speed that up. That the very experience I'm having right now in my life, the thing that's happened for me today, is showing me the very next stage to deepen into this seeing. Each time I deepen, it's becoming more and more experiential, and that process, the unfolding of awakening in the mind and body and in our life, is never ending. You can never get it all done. It's never going to end in that way. And at the same time, we're seeing again and again what we really are, clearer and clearer, over and over. And allowing that to reflect more and more through our mind and our body, to shine through our life as our life. That it really isn't possible for us to get this or keep this or lose this or not be worthy of it when we are it. I have to keep saying that because for such a long time we believe that this may not happen for us, that this may not, somehow we might mess it up, we might not make it, or some myth such as that. But the great self, the omnipresent being that is the source of the universe, is appearing as you, and it wants to recognize itself. What in the universe could actually stop it? It will experience its ideas that it can be blocked, that it can be unworthy. It will experience, the self will experience its ideas as a human being until we challenge them. But there is absolutely nothing at all in the universe that can stop you from waking up and seeing. Just as when you stand in front of the mirror, there is nothing that can stop you from seeing the instantaneous reflection. There's a process to this awakening and unfolding in the body and mind that is happening simultaneously. The body and mind in your life will be getting upgrades constantly for the rest of your life. As you're seeing, it gets deeper and deeper of what you really are, that you really don't have any shape, that you really aren't limited at all, that there really isn't anything or anyone other than you in reality, although there will still seem to be. So you can really begin to see this that I'm talking about tonight. It has the effect of just relaxing into this. That you're never going to get to the end of what your body and mind can experience in this particular form. That each day is going to be better than the last. And every time you see what you are, it'll be even deeper experientially. That's still happening now for me, still. Every time I look at what I am, it's revealed even clearer. How it does that, how the self does that, I've no clue. And then that unfolding of that seeing as my life. And we're all always experiencing this deepening, this unfolding. And there is no arbitrary point where we could say, okay, that's it now. Yesterday I wasn't here, and today this is the finish line. I know I'm there now. It really doesn't exist like that. There's just every day a little bit or a lot more convinced that you are that which is everywhere, and less convinced that you are only someone somewhere. And that is absolutely happening whether you're aware of it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not. And we are all conscious of it in a group like this. We're all coming to work with this process consciously. And hopefully we can just relax into that. As we relax more into this, I can't get it wrong. I can experience getting it wrong so that I can question if that's even possible for me. Each experience I have is going to show me what I'm still subscribing to. The junk mail that the mind sends us that we keep reading and agreeing with. We can unsubscribe. And that's going to continue forever. That at any particular time you are appearing as all of these human beings, and babies are being born this very second, and some beings are leaving their body right now. But in all of those human forms, you are experiencing yourself and deepening to whatever degree is possible, becoming more self-aware, more conscious of yourself, even if it is as a separate being in some bodies. In this body that's hearing these words that you're listening with, you're conscious of the process. And it's already too late to stop it. You've already heard the truth, and it's already sinking in deeper, and it cannot be stopped. So I would invite you to just relax into that. Whatever is in front of you in this next moment, or as you move throughout the rest of the evening and the week, whatever you experience is only going to be happening to show you what you can let go of. It's not a punishment for getting it wrong. It's not that you are doing something wrong. It is the great self waking up to itself, belief by belief, experience by experience, so that it can come to release those. When I really got this, I really stopped waiting for some point in the future where I could say, okay, now I'm sure I am awakened. You know, that just didn't hold any pull for me anymore. And we can celebrate the fact that we are already in this moment as awakened as we can be. And the very next moment, some deeper seeing will be possible, and then some deeper being. And that's just continuously going on. At some point along the way, we somehow lose the ability to think of ourselves only as a separate being. At some point, we just forget how to imagine that this is all we are, but we can still enjoy our humanity and our relationships and our life and everything that comes with the sense of being separate, but not the actuality. But maybe we won't even notice that. Maybe that will just be happening in the background as we're noticing day by day, hour by hour, more and more peace. Even those beings that had this big apocalyptic moment where the seeing was so complete and final that it was very sudden, they still had to go through this very same process of undoing the egoic beliefs and allowing what they'd seen to embody itself. Just because we've had some deep seeing doesn't mean all of a sudden those beliefs will just disappear. Very, very infrequently that occurs. But so I just like to encourage you to just relax. You can't get this wrong. It's right on track, especially when we think it's not. There's no way to mess this up, which was very good news for me, because I had no clue what I was doing, stumbled my way through it all the way through. And I hope that gives you some sense of peace and relaxation in this. If you already are the infinite power that is the self, in the very moment you want to recognize yourself, for the first time that thought or that urge or that impulse or desire goes through your mind, or maybe you encounter an awakened being somewhere and you get a sense of, I want that too. It's already too late. The very moment that first thought has happened already. There really is, in truth, no separate being to mess this up. There are beliefs that will be experienced that seem to slow it down or hold it at bay until they're questioned. But even that can't stop it. It cannot be stopped. It's inevitable. And I know I'm stressing this and spending a lot of time with this, but it's important that we recognize this. It's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's already happening continuously. Continuously, you're seeing clearer again and again and again, and then allowing that to become your lived experience. Sometimes there's a little delay between the lived experience and the seeing. Sometimes it's instantaneous. It really doesn't matter in the long run, does it? If some belief is more challenging to overcome than another one, it really doesn't matter in the long run. Nothing can get in the way of this. Nothing can impact it. So it may seem basic or obvious, or I don't know what other word, but for me this was fundamental to realize, because I just began to relax and enjoy the journey. It took the angst out of it. It took the dread out of it and the desperate trying to get somewhere out of it for me. And I hope it will do the same for you, that you're already right here and also unfolding, having the experience of unfolding, waking back up to. So I'd like to, if anyone has any questions or would like to share a breakthrough or a challenge or an opportunity, as we were calling them earlier, to break through, you're more than welcome. Colleen, whenever you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Well, I'm just going to share my morning for everybody. It's clear to me that that this thing can't stop, because in truth, I didn't even ask for it. So obviously, I'm not really in charge. What happens the life situation is going through a divorce and having to work with a person on how to end it. And it's just incredibly painful. And it's like 24 years, of being with somebody. And today I experienced, fear, pain, crying, moaning on the floor. I don't want to do this. I'm done. Just kill me. Take me to the next life. Blah, 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 blah. And the whole time I'm doing it, the person is doing it. I'm going, okay, here we go. Here's this again. Okay. So there's just this little bit of peace left. That's like, I really thought I wasn't going to have to feel like this to this extent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm still wanting to not have to feel intense feelings. And I think that maybe, I don't know about other people, but that's part of why it always felt like I was losing the awakening. So, I mean, the reality is that that stuff's still there. And then on the other side, it's like, okay, that was that. Now let's listen to Helen. You know, because I know it's really not what I am, but I still get to feel. Anyway, that I just wanted to share that because that's the reality for this being. And I'm assuming this is just part of the integration, you know, the embodying. And I am questioning it too. I'm saying,
Yeah.
okay, what is this? But my point is that I don't want to feel it anymore. And I think people probably come up against that, you know, I don't know.
If you can recognize that part of you that doesn't want to feel it, that's pushing against it when it happens, is it really that you don't want to feel it, or is it that you don't want to be able to suffer when it happens? You know, there's a huge difference in that, because part of us is going to push against some experience of strong emotion. That's just how we're wired, isn't it? Some strong emotion comes up, some very painful situation, and of course something inside is going to say, no, I do not want this. And it goes hand in hand with the painful situation. But really, when I looked closely at those times, you know, for me it was fear and anger and, you know, a lot of things like that. What I really wanted, and it really helped me to be clear on it, was I wanted to be able to go through any human experience at all, good, bad, or downright ugly, and feel bulletproof to that. You know, whatever emotions were going on were just going on, and whatever situation. Because if we're saying, I don't want to feel what I'm feeling, we have no choice but to continue to experience it, because we're saying, it'll cycle around again. We're saying, this is not how I should be. How I am is not how I should be. And as the infinite self, we're kind of ordering up our very next cycle of this experience that way. As you said, you're questioning it. But if instead we ask for, can I go through this without suffering at all? Can I be in a place where even this doesn't really touch me at all? Then we won't be pushing against those emotions when they come up. And eventually then they will stop, because it's not really, and one of the worst experiences in my entire life taught me this in a very real way, that I could go through even the worst experience and feel like my life was ripped apart, and some part of me still, a large part of me still, was just unaffected by it completely. And I wouldn't have believed that unless I'd experienced it. You know, where life just grabs you and shakes your situation, turns it upside down and says, there you go. I'm sure you've been through something like that, but maybe you are right now. But what we really want is to be able to go through anything at all, first and foremost, without suffering. So we can always access that in any moment. If I can be really clear on what I want and say, I want to be immune to suffering right now. Don't necessarily need my emotions or my situation to change, although they will as a reflection of that. Then you won't be seemingly cut off from the self in those moments. Because any pushing against the experience is enough to disturb the peace, seemingly, isn't it, when it happens? You get a sense of it.
Oh yeah, it totally went into the old self-pity and the, you know, suffering, the whole world against me, blah, blah, blah. The only difference is that I'm watching it, you know, and I'm aware of the whole thing again. It's just, it's a really highly charged situation too. And I think what it did do is it brought another surrender, because I've been trying to hold on to my house and now I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to even stay here. So maybe it's just a big surrender. You know, how you said that some of these things are brought in to teach us more and more. It's kind of today, it was like, wow, do I want to even stay here? You know, and so more of a
Yeah, why am I
surrender.
even fighting? Something's trying to change, and maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't look like it, but and it maybe doesn't feel like it, but it might be something that's good for me ultimately. If life's
Yeah, it
going in a
did.
direction that we didn't expect, it's often something better coming. It doesn't look like that. It looks like we're losing something at first, doesn't it, when that appears?
Yeah, it feels like a bigger surrender. It was, but it was anger I have not experienced in quite a while. Um,
For me, the major lesson from all of these painful experiences for me was that if I continue to say being awakened should look this way and it shouldn't be this experience, if I was putting any image on it at all, um, then I would never feel free. I would never experience freedom in a permanent way. So when that really awful experience happened to me, and I didn't say even in that moment, this should not be. There was just a letting go. There was a peace. There was something in a lot of pain. Some part of the sense of being someone was being deconstructed. Let's just say in that moment, there was a sense of peace also. For the first time, I didn't say this is not how awakening should be, and there's a respect for this is my experience in this moment.
yeah.
And there was a piece there that just did not go even in the worst experience. And I really got in that moment that if I just don't say this should or shouldn't be, then life is going to change to reflect my openness. But if I have an idea of what awakening is still, and perhaps more importantly what it isn't, it shouldn't be this experience that I'm having right now. If I can be authentic to whatever is occurring, then our experience tends to improve and get better. And these things they come up, but they're not so strong then. There's not such an intensity to it.
Yeah. I can see how, I just want someone to tell me that that I'm awake and I'm still gonna cry. This is
And
crazy.
that's the place that you end up at. So you can step into that now. Like right now, I have no idea what I'm going to look like in the next moment.
Yeah.
And there's no idea left. There was before, but I've really, let this go, that I should never feel this emotion or that emotion again. That experience would not happen to me and that person wouldn't appear in my life. So there's an openness to whatever the awakened state wants to look like, it can look like. There's an authenticity and an immediacy in that we can adopt right now. Well, if this is what my life looks like in this moment, this is how it's supposed to be right now. For some reason, who knows what that reason is, but it's often something changing. And that's the one thing that the self cannot do. It cannot say, the only thing it cannot do is it can't say, this is not how it should be, or I am not how I should be. Can you feel the freedom in not being able to say that? And then there's a peace that comes with that overrides and cushions you and buffers you against any traumatic experience or, sort of pain, real deep pain. That's sometimes we have to face that pain because we haven't been able to before fully or whatever the reason. But if we're not in opposition with the moment or with ourselves, then we won't be suffering. It's vital to recognize that's what you really want, rather than saying, I don't want to feel these emotions again. I'd
Yeah.
like to be in a place where they don't touch me. That's doable
Pain
right
is
now.
inevitable and suffering is optional.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. And to see the difference is key, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It got out of hand this morning. Anyway, thank
But
you.
you've become something. You've moved into something from that experience, haven't you? Something has happened as a
Yes,
result of that experience,
yes.
and some deeper understanding. And that was
It feels like more
horrible,
surrender.
yet
It just feels
yeah,
like more surrender. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Thank
And
you.
it's just we can get to that point right now where we say, I'm no longer, if the self thinks that this moment should look like this, who am I to kind of argue with that? And I realized, oh my gosh, how arrogant I've been to say this should not be, when this is what it is for
Right. If
whatever
I'm
reason.
not in charge of this thing from the very beginning, then I guess I can't really judge the experiences.
And what if that is the only reason we're suffering? What if that
It
is the
is.
only reason?
That's the little caveat I've heard from you that has changed my whole thing around. What if that is the very thing that
Yeah.
you say that about a lot of stuff? What is that if that's the very thing? It's like, whoop, then your head just goes like, yeah.
You stop pushing against what is, because it is firstly it's absolutely pointless. You can't change whatever you're feeling right now in this moment, whatever you're experiencing.
Yeah.
It's already happening. You can't go back in time and change it. And
Right.
eventually you wouldn't want to anyway, because you know that something vital is happening, and some seeing, some deepening, some learning. It doesn't feel pleasant always, but something important is happening, some deeper seeing and understanding.
Right. And I used to throw things across the room and I don't do that anymore. So
I've been known to do that once or twice. But don't tell anyone I said that, right?
Okay. Well, we need to talk now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you
Very
so
good.
much.
Thanks for sharing. I'm sure it helped everyone. It's yeah, lovely. Would anyone else like to ask or a question or to share something? Anyone having any challenges? Shaista?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah,
Yes, my phone
it's
has
good.
been
So
playing
far,
up.
it's good.
Okay, that's good. So, yeah, so nothing major, like nothing big things are happening, but lots of sweet small things are happening, and it's there's peace, but it's not the peace, the peace you feel. It's not that. So it's like nice, calm, and so and there's I can feel it. The deepening is happening,
Mhm.
and there's understanding. So every time I hear, you listen to your videos, and I just write down journaling and all that, and I just feel the energy is shifting. There's some blind spots got covered and all that. And the good thing is, whatever I'm thinking, it's just happening straight away. So which is, thinking in a way, it's a very good thing. But like today, I was
Sometimes
like,
it's
yes,
good and sometimes it's not, right? Depends what you're thinking. Yeah.
exactly. So yesterday, like I was just, it'll be nice, if we get this time off before the Easter holidays, and it'll be nice if I could stay home. And it was just a very random, very little thought. Maybe I didn't even think. I was very happy at school also. When I came to class, and they said, "Oh, we just got there's a child, and he's positive, and we're all going home, and this we'll have this break." And then so the little things every day they're happening. So I don't know whether it's the little things, but I know it's just a thought is coming that, oh, I need to, I think, what if it's a nice day so I can stay in the sun a
Mhm.
bit longer. And then I went to the class, and the child had just a child in the class had seizure, and we all like said, "Oh, you all can have a long break." So it's funny in a way, but I'm not sharing with anybody. I'm telling it to you. So I just this time, this is the only time I'm not sharing. I don't feel like telling this to anybody. Otherwise, usually I would just tell my friends or here and there. So there's that. So I had a few things which your last YouTubes and all, and the last satsang cleared it up. I have one little question. So this you said that we can either experience the self, or we can experience the experience, perhaps the emotion and feelings and all, and that sort of I didn't understand. I did understand and I didn't. Like it's so when it's one experience, how come we just experience one or the other? Or is it only because you're talking about from this small self point of view that it could experience either or? And that doesn't,
Yeah,
so I'm
from
just not
from
very
the
sure. Yeah.
from the egoic perspective, it'll feel like we're either experiencing our real self or being a separate being. But there'll be a time where you're experiencing both, like we were just saying before in the previous question. I might be feeling a deep, deep peace and also some emotion playing as well. So there'll be a sense of the separate being playing still, but against this background of deeper peace. For a little while, we might experience both.
Yeah, no, so yeah, that's a bit better. I'll hear it again. I always, when I play it again, I understand it better 2, 3 times. So that's fine. And other thing is, I am not experiencing that I am the self. So, but there is, I know the difference. So I feel I go and come back, and I can see that also. Um,
Can that be an experience though? Being the self, is it going to be something I experience? Because experience is temporary and changing, and recognizing and that becoming, I'm saying the word experiential, but it's more of a background knowing that's deepening, a knowing that starts off as a theoretical knowing that I am the self that's everywhere, and then that deepens into a conviction that isn't an experience. It's just you're more and more convinced and less doubting. So you won't ever have, well, some people have a kind of an experience of being infinite, but that would come and go anyway. But inside there should be a deeper knowing that's really beginning to, day by day, become more solid. That if anyone said to you, you're not really making progress, like you think you are, at first we're like, oh gosh, yeah, maybe that's true. But as the days go by, there's more of a sense of that. I know I am. I can. It's just some becoming some deeper seeing inside.
so it's happening. So I sort of know what you're saying, the experience, and I know that, but yeah, so I get that. Yeah. But thank you very much. Thanks a lot for everything.
Don't wait for an experience to tell you that you are that, because experiences will come and go anyway.
Yeah, that I know the difference of, because I've had
Yeah.
a lot of like experiences I've had, and I didn't know that, I couldn't understand what do they mean by when they say experience are coming and going. But now I know the difference.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and yes, it's happened. It is here. Yeah, I get that. Thank you.
If you can recognize that day by day, more and more, there's something that is just more and more convinced that this is what you've always been, then that's the kind of knowing that we're looking for. That you can't even maybe explain how you know or why you know. You just know, and you're more and more convinced. That's the really important thing is. Lovely.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good to talk to you. Zoe, when you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. I'm so glad to be here. Gosh, what did I want to say? Oh, this morning I was walking. I was listening to another satsang of yours that's very similar message. You don't have to change anything about yourself to be yourself. And I just wanted to share, like, I had this nightmare as a child about this train chasing me, and just kind of followed me. And then when you said there's no finish line, it was like just like taking a deep breath, and I could feel this train coming up that I've been running from, and I just experienced it. It's like it hit my body, and it wasn't pleasant, really. It was kind of tingly and a little bit icy, but it was okay. And oh my God, your clarity in the message that you give has just made such a huge impact in such a short time. I'm just so thankful. And what you said today really clicked about how these patterns keep repeating as the infinite self. If I put out there that this is not how it should be, then I am directly saying, bring me some more of this.
This thing that's happening to me right now should not be. This thing that I'm looking at with all of my infinite power should not be occurring. How can it ever? It took me so long to get this, to really get it. When you see it clearly, it's, oh, right, okay, now I can stop that.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive though. We really feel that pushing against what we don't want is going to make it go away, don't we? We're just kind of, we really believe that for some time.
Huge. And then one more thing I wanted to share. I was in bed this morning and some physical pains have been waking me up at night. And then I started listening to your, it was the formless meditation or something. Maybe it was the spaciousness. No, maybe it was the formlessness one. And as I went into that formlessness, then the pain in the body kind of disappeared. Yeah. Thank you.
The body's responding to how many thoughts we're believing. It's giving us real-time feedback. And if it's, some kind of pain is always some really deeply held conviction that no longer fits with what we've seen ourselves to be. And as you're just being that space of awareness, it's impossible to do that in that moment without and still believe a thought at the same time. You just can't. You can't do both at the same time. So the body reflects that as a kind of just sort of a letting go and relaxation when you.
Wow. Thank you. A deeply held conviction that we no longer believe. Okay.
You'll be showing up somewhere either as, physical pain or some strong emotion or some experience that keeps happening, or maybe all of the above,
Yeah.
If whatever we've believed for a very long time, we won't be conscious that we're believing it. Our life will have to tell us somehow, this is still going on in there. Have a look at it, and our body's giving us real-time feedback, whether we like it or not,
Wow. Yeah. And today, just what you said today really brought that home, that everything, it's like the next step in this unfolding. Okay, here it is. Here's the next gift to look at. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Okay, Abhishek.
Hi.
Hi.
Munching some crackers here. I think, what you said today was helpful, that it's unstoppable and it's unfailing, because part of me has known that it's definite, that I'm definitely going to continue to process through and, release and until this life is over, and probably continue on after in the next life. Like that's always been definite. But I guess there's this been prepped for this readiness for moving on to a next way of relating. And I think that understanding this unstoppableness and being able to rest in that more is part of that, because now I can shift into sort of relaxing into life more and learning to play with it at a better level. So I can feel that is coming, and that's part of what I'm transitioning. One of the
much more fun then as well, isn't it?
Yes,
to try to get somewhere all the time, really. So
I think I was just afraid to trust. That I would trust, and then like the floor would come out or something, and that was really just being a teenager, because that's what happens. You believe, or stuff just shows up out of nowhere, and none of it is rational. So I think learning to let go of the safety bar of being careful is part of what has been happening. And the weird thing, and I guess this is just normal, but it's also weird, is how physical some of the transitions are, like the shifts in my brain or my skull or my body. It's very, very, I mean, it's so intense that it shocks me out of meditation every time. So every 5 seconds or every few minutes, and so that is a bit confusing. I did ask for it to lighten up because it was too intense.
Good.
And I'm just curious, maybe I wanted something tangible to sort of help me keep focused and I support a validation process. But maybe that I created the intensity of it myself, just with the desire for it to be tangible. And this might be a way for me to relate so that it's a little more gentle and less interruptive.
Yeah.
And if you had some perspective that could help me, because I still feel like I'm holding.
We tend to want something to happen, so we can sometimes accidentally create that intensity and feel we have to kind of suffer through it because something's happening now. If this is going on, so I'm making progress. But it's so good that what you've said there is I don't really need to have that anymore to know that it's occurring and deepening. I can just relax into it, and that quite often the most powerful seeings are the quietest ones. And that your body knows what to do with the energy that's released that's been invested in those thoughts. It knows how to assimilate it and work with it. If we can relax more and have a little bit more fun in the process, not trying to get to the end, we'll relax more, which helps the body work through things. And they're not so intense as well. So it kind of spirals upwards in a good way then.
And I mean, I still believe though that my attitude before did help me sort of stick with a lot of the resistance. So it was useful. But
It's just shifting now, like you said so well, to that more effortless way, isn't it? That more relaxed way.
Yeah, but I think like, and I guess it's happening anyway. But there's still like this to say, okay, maybe there's another way of seeing it so that it can smooth over the transition more.
Yeah. For me, it was just to recognize I'm never going to get it finished. And that's okay. We're not supposed to. There's no finish like that. Wonderful.
Yeah. And that's like that idea it lends itself to the idea of playing. Like I'm playing with the world. It's playing.
Exactly. Lovely. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Sorry, Kelly. I think we're going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you very much for being with me tonight. Namaste.